let's take a quick look at the Mountain West, where San Diego State is the 1 seed. I guess I'll give you the odds. San Diego State also the favorite at plus 150. Boise plus 340. Utah State plus 380. Nevada plus 600. And Utah State and Nevada are interesting because I think they are both clearly bubble teams. New Mexico may be dead. They are 12-1. UNLV 14-1. San Jose State 40-1. Colorado State 60-1. Fresno 200-1. Air Force 250-1. And Wyoming 500-1. Man, if you told me last year I could get Wyoming in the Mountain West Conference tournament 500-1, I would have certainly taken some of that. And they are one of the massive disappointments this season. Let's take a look at the bracket where the 5 seeds, the top 5 seeds are through to the quarters. San Diego State will get the winner of Colorado State and Fresno. Utah State will get the winner of UNLV and Air Force. Boise will get the winner of New Mexico and Wyoming. And Nevada and San Jose State are already locked in a 4-5 matchup. So knowing what we know about this tournament, that San Diego State and Boise are in, Utah State and Nevada have work to do. Do you have a feel for who you want to back here?
I think we come to the same thing we've talked about a little bit earlier. Utah State could have a very tough road of New Mexico, Boise, and then San Diego State having to get through all of them. That seems like a lot to ask for a team that really hasn't defended since Ryan Odom got there, I don't think. Certainly if they get hot, shoot a lot of threes. They've won that tournament before, if I remember correctly. I think COVID year, they'd won it before everything got canceled. Sad day. Hopefully that stays far, far away from us this year. I think I'm a little bit puzzled. Does Nevada really have a case to get an at-large bid here? Like, have I been asleep at the wheel doing 2 podcasts a week with you?
I'll just say this. Joe Lunardi still has them in.
Okay. All right.
I don't know that I would make a case for Nevada. But some of their, I don't know, I guess some of their wins or some of their losses in the preseason don't look as bad now. Like, their only non-conference losses were Oregon, Loyola Marymount, and Kansas State. And that was in overtime. And they don't really have an awful loss on their resume. That's probably the best thing you can say for them. They did get that. They won home and home at against New Mexico. I think anytime you get a win in the pit, it's a big deal. So yeah, I mean, I'm not standing here beating my chest for them, but it certainly seems that most people think that they are at least on the bubble at this point. So they could be in. Again, I'm not saying that they should be. I'm saying that from all accounts, bracket matrix, Joe Lunardi, they say that they're one of the bubble teams.
Got it. Well, I'm not here to hate on Joe Lunardi. He's not performed anywhere near the top of the bracket matrix for a while. But
by the way, losing to Wyoming and UNLV in the last 2 games, like at Wyoming, who has like 8 wins all year, and then at home to UNLV, it's about as bad of a way as you could finish. I think if they won one of those games, they were like pretty safely in. But losing both those games, like that Wyoming loss is for a team that didn't have a bad loss. Now they do. That could be the difference maker for them. So they may need to win a couple games here.
I got to say also, just from last year with Wyoming getting, I think, to the play-in games in Dayton, when I thought they had a great case to be in the tournament as an at-large, fully in there like swimwear. Not great that the Mountain West hasn't been looked upon as fondly. Yes, things change year to year, but I don't really think they do that much. I mean, at this point, I'd much rather have Nevada in there than Wisconsin. I mean, come on. But I don't think it's going to happen unless something crazy happens in this tournament, which means Nevada probably has to get through San Jose State, which I don't think is going to be simple. Which I got to say also kind of interests me a little bit. Tim Miles in a tournament setting, say what you want about him, might be the most boring guy on earth, but also is a pretty good basketball coach, I got to say. And Nebraska makes me feel like they might actually want his services around based on what Fred Hoiberg's done with that program since he got there. I think Nevada's gonna. I mean, they got to get through San Diego State, and then whoever comes through the bottom, I don't think it's likely to be a bad team that comes out of there, unfortunately. So that's going to be really tough to get an at large. Because and the sad part in a lot of these smaller tournaments is that like Nevada gets no credit for beating San Jose State, who's a decent team. It really all is going to come upon that Friday matchup with San Diego State, assuming that all happens. If there's an upset there, even worse for Nevada, but I guess it's better for their conference championship odds or likelihood to win it because it's a much easier road. Man, I'm struggling to come up with. I mean, San Diego State's going to have a ton of fans in Vegas. I was there last year. Actually, went one day to the Pac-12, one day to the Mountain West. And I just Wyoming had a pretty good showing last year. It's not going to happen this year. New Mexico is historically great at showing up there. I think that might be a problem for Utah State as well. I think if I'm looking for long shots, New Mexico 12-1 seems up my alley. I think that's probably the one. I think the way Patino and his kind of style is, it's going to be really fast. It's going to be really aggressive. I don't love that they have to play a first round game as well, but and it would be a really tough road to get there. But I think that's the long shot I'm most interested in. I do think Boise's really good though, and I think that might even keep me away from playing in New Mexico or something like that, or even thinking about it just because of that tough road. But that's my long shot pick. I think San Diego State is clearly on the easiest side of the bracket, though. So I think one of those situations where if you want someone that's going to get through this thing, I think it's San Diego State, and you're getting a little bit over even money. And I don't think your road's going to get a lot worse than what it's kind of scheduled to look like, and maybe get lucky and place a team like New Mexico in the final.
Well, I'll just go ahead and spoil it. That's going to be my best bet is San Diego State to win the Mountain West at plus 150. And it's mostly for the reasons you just said. Utah State, Boise, New Mexico all feel like if I were stack ranking the teams on how much I like them right now, it'd be San Diego State, Boise, Utah State, New Mexico, Nevada. And the fact that San Diego State avoids all of those until the final, and I mean, it's just it's too good of a draw. I'm with you. Boise is playing great ball right now. I wish I could bet New Mexico. 6 weeks ago, I was in love with this Lobos team, and they just shit the bed in the second half of the season. Like I think they've lost like 7 of their last 10 or something like that. It's fallen apart for them. It started with the injury to House, and they just haven't bounced back from it. Like they're just not themselves. Though, again, we talk about, like we said with Penn State, like if you've got those dudes, like if you've got a guy on your team who can just absolutely take over a game and, score 35, 40 points, you have an advantage. And New Mexico has a couple of those guys in Jamal Mashburn and Jalen House who could just show up any given night and go nuclear. So I do think if you're looking for a long shot, New Mexico is interesting, but I do think San Diego State is the team to beat. The loss last week to Boise, a game that they were in control of for 38 minutes and just didn't finish. I think that they will be locked in, and I think that you get a solid performance from Brian Dutcher's boys in this tournament. So I'm going to just go chalky and go with San Diego State to win this thing.
Don't blame you. I mean, it does feel like kind of reminds me of KU a little bit as well. It's like one of those where you can grab in some value is a tough term to talk about on a podcast that's recorded, and then we'll see what happens with all these numbers and things like that. But I wouldn't be shocked if San Diego State got bet enough to be a minus money favorite, as people like to say.
I wanted to see if there's anything you wanted to look at in the American. The Cougs are minus 300 to win this tournament. Like they are clearly the cream of the crop. Memphis is the 2 seed. Tulane is the 3 seed. I don't know if I can get around with what we saw today. Houston taking care of Memphis on their floor in a game that Memphis feels like it was the most hyped spot it could have been. Houston hits a buzzer beater and beats them outright. Memphis is plus 450 as the second favorite. Cincinnati plus 1,200. Tulane 20-1. Wichita and Temple are 30-1. UCF is 40-1. I think any further, and we're talking nonsense. Is there any team that you can picture jumping up and beating Houston in this tournament, or is this just kind of a coronation?
I think it's still Memphis. And with that cover today, now I think are 4-0 in their last 4 games, and it might even go better than that if you stretch it out further. Um, man, I think Memphis have something in them that can give Houston problems. They're 0-2 straight up against them this year, but with I guess, a lopsided loss, but still a cover when they're, I think, getting 14 without Kendrick Davis at Houston. But losing the buzzer beater today, I think, gives them some good confidence coming through. Another team that I'm not sure is in the dance, Memphis. They've done well in conference play, but the American is, I mean, nothing better than the Conference USA they used to play in, I feel like. But they got 1 seeds out of there, so hard to say that. I feel like looking at the bracket, Central Florida really fell apart. They don't look like a huge test to Memphis. I think it's a Tulane matchup in the semis, which could be a little complicated. But I don't know necessarily that Tulane are going to get through Memphis and then Houston as well. I don't think Cincinnati or Temple can really get through Houston or knock them off on the way. It just feels like Houston's going to meet there. Whoever you think is going to get there from the bottom half. You're taking a big risk of that second game with Memphis and Tulane potentially. So I think it's Memphis or nothing for me. And I don't know that I really want to gamble to that level, though. If you think about it, Memphis against Houston on a neutral, are they getting more than 4.5-1 odds to win it? Probably not. I think today's money line was probably in like the 270 range, I'm guessing. Maybe a little bit shorter than that, but
that was at Memphis though.
Yeah, true. So that'll climb, certainly on a neutral court, but Houston looks primed and ready, I gotta say. So I think they deserve their price.
Yeah, the problem for me is, and I actually kind of like Tulane. And Tulane swept Memphis this year, so I like the way I like the way they match up. The problem is Tulane in the 2 games that they played Houston were like everything Tulane does, Houston shuts down. Like it doesn't matter. So Houston won by 20, and then they won by 30. So they are kryptonite for Tulane, who I think is a pretty good team. They just aren't built to beat the Cougs and to win the conference tournament. Like that's what you're gonna have to do. Somebody's gonna have to beat that team. I don't see it. I could see Memphis giving. I think Memphis would give them the best game, but again, I like the way Tulane matches up with Memphis. So I just can't find anybody to go against the Cougs with here. So and minus 300 just it does nothing for me. It actually may be a good bet. I'm not saying it's not, but it's not one that I'll be making certainly. All right. Like I said, I'm going to reiterate my best bet, and then we'll let you give yours. I'm going to go with San Diego State plus 150 to win the Mountain West. It's not a sexy number. It's not like a big home run, but I do feel like their side of the bracket just it lines up for them to be in the finals. And if you've got a team in the finals, that's half the battle. So I like San Diego State. All the other teams that I like in that tournament are all on the bottom half of the bracket. So I'm going to go with the Aztecs and Brian Dutcher to get the job done in the Mountain West. Where are you headed?
I'm going to go to the ACC, circling back to what we touched on first in this pod. NC State feels like too long of a long shot to me. Currently seeing them at 6 shortest odds to win the tournament. Have a first round bye, but then get through a fairly, I mean, of the 4 teams that have double byes, I feel like Clemson is the weakest, especially considering how well they were playing beginning of the season. Market really didn't believe in them. And I think the market has been proven right later down the stretch. Could be a first tough match, maybe a little more complicated than you'd want with Virginia Tech, but if NC State gets through there, I feel like they have 2 guards that really can't be stopped. If they shoot well, they have a good couple days in Greensboro. They could beat anybody. And who knows if whoever North Carolina or Virginia gets through, I doubt Boston College or Louisville have much to say there. But you only have to beat one of those, and then you get what likely is a knockout match of Miami and Duke in the conference semis. And who knows how that's going to go. But I think either of those teams, NC State has shown they can play with at 10-1 odds. I was looking at certainly shot for the best number you can find. But I feel like it's a little bit too far for a 6 seed, yes, in the ACC. But I feel like they deserve better odds than that. And I like that. I'll put that as my best bet. Almost went Penn State, but I had to reel it in a little bit.